Hi guys, welcome to this week's podcast. It's been a really difficult week this week. My son has been very ill to the point where I think I've lived on a diet of cake for the entire since Saturday.
As the founder of the Landscapers Circle and the Limitless Landscapers podcast, I am here to help you get more money, time and freedom to make your life and business truly limitless. Through my experiences as the owner of a garden design and landscaping business and through tried and tested methods, if you want help with the marketing, managing and growing of your business, then you are in the right place. If you are a landscaper, garden designer, horticultural business or a supplier to the industry, be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
So it's been a really interesting week because I've had to navigate working from home again with a very sick child whilst keeping my older child happy about going to school. So it's been a little bit difficult, and I've also had the council knocking the door because my neighbour doesn't like the fact we have our office from home. So that's been another round of interesting conversations I've had to have about potentially changing the use of my house to a business premises, which just blows my mind, bearing in mind that we are a landscaping company, so all people do is come and collect the vans. Don't know if any of you guys have experienced this, a very jealous neighbour who just likes to complain about everything. So that's been quite interesting. And I've also been negotiating with non-payers. Now, we've all had this, as I can assume, but since my last catastrophe with a non-payer, I literally took out some business insurance. So I'm hoping that's going to actually help. So just a pointer here, from what I've just said. One, if you're stuck working from home, don't beat yourself up about it. I certainly haven't this week. I've just had to try and get on with things as best as possible. And luckily I've got Mia, who's been a great help in the office on the TLC front. But also beware, if you do work from home and you've got horrible neighbours like mine, the council might just knock the door. They're very polite people, so it's been fairly easy. It's just going to be a load of hoops and paperwork to jump through and potentially look at then getting an office somewhere or a yard space. So, but that's quite difficult to find where I am based. So that's one thing. And the third thing is look at your business insurance, because from last year I should have really paid the extra. I think it was ridiculous, like 100 quid over the year or 50 quid over the year it would have cost me to have this business insurance, which would have prevented such catastrophic payout that I had to make. So I've now got that on my business insurance, so I'm going to actually utilize it to try and get the money out of a non-payer. So I'll update you on all of those things in another podcast, because I think it is something that us landscapers, designers and horticultural businesses probably don't think about, and sometimes, but you know, professional non-payers are everywhere. Particularly now, I feel it's even worse with the age of Google, where they can find out everything, how much everything costs. And also they get a lot of consumer rights, which I'm all for. I think it should be fair, but we often get penalised as businesses. But that's just my opinion. So I'll update you on all that as I navigate my way through another non-payer. No matter what you do, no matter what payment plans you put in place, I suppose the only upside is the fact that it's a very small amount due to me changing various things in my terms, conditions and my payment scheduling with clients. So that's the silver lining in that cloud. But what I really wanted to talk to you about on this podcast is last week I delivered a talk with a lovely TLC member of mine, Kate Charles, Garden Design, to her group on Facebook, Garden Design Professionals. So if you are a garden design professional and you want to join, go check that out on Facebook. I'll put a link in the show notes. And essentially, we had a really great discussion. I did a presentation on the topic as requested by Kate, because it seems to be a big issue in the industry, how we bridge the gap between design and build, and essentially between designers and landscapers. And it was a really well attended and well enjoyed talk, and the feedback I've got has been phenomenal. So it seemed to hit the mark, and really what came out of it was a very good discussion around how we bridge the gap, how we communicate with each other and how to network with each other as well. So it was quite an interesting thing, so much so that I've decided to re-record it slightly differently, but as a standalone topic in the TLC membership. So in a few months' time, because we're just about to release the new topic at the end of this month, in a couple of months' time, 8 weeks' time, I will be having that as the next topic in TLC membership. So if you are interested in finding out the full details of that, then please join as a member and you'll get access to that as part of your membership. I think we talked around 6 areas of how we bridge the gap between design and build, and we also talked about the key misunderstandings between them. But what I really wanted to talk about today was one of those points. So there's 6 that we covered, but one of those points was setting expectations. And I've talked a lot on the podcast, in TLC membership, probably on a lot of the lives if you go back, about setting expectations with clients, and that tends to come quite easily. You can set the expectations, make sure they're aware of what's going on, and really set yourself up for success by essentially communicating with them really well of what they can expect when they work with you. Now, what we didn't really think about is how this also applies to when you are working with a designer, if you're a landscaper, or a landscaper if you're a designer. And a couple of things around this came up. What I mean by setting expectations is, do you have completion times that the client needs to be adhered to? If so, that needs to be communicated at the very start, particularly when it's at quote stage, and many landscapes at the moment are pretty fully booked through 2022 even. So it's kind of working together on delivering to completion times. It's also setting expectations on how you work together. And what I mean by that, you really need clear boundaries on who's responsible for what. And quite an interesting topic of conversation was about when garden designers go back for site visits during the build and how they are received by said landscapers. Now, some of the designers I spoke to were saying that the landscapers are almost annoyed that they're there, and despite bringing teas, coffees, cakes, biscuits, whatever, it doesn't seem to thaw the relationship. And I completely get that, because even in my own business, where I have an in-house designer that actually is employed by me, my landscaping team are still a little bit edgy around him, as if he thinks he knows more than them, or he is going to come and tell them what to do, even though he definitely isn't doing that. However, he did design the garden, and they do have to know exactly what he's done at each stage. And it's also good for him to be a bridge between the client and the landscaper, because he's been the one that sat with the client at multiple site visits, multiple client meetings. He's brought their vision to life and built a good rapport and a good relationship with the client. In order to continue that great relationship all the way through the build, he really needs to be a key part of the team in going back to the client. I'm not saying the client shouldn't talk to the landscaping team, not at all, but he is meant to be that bridge as well. So it's key and essential, in my opinion, that the designer does attend site and does meet with the landscaping teams and does discuss the build with the build teams that they've got on site. But we were discussing that there is still this mindset, and it's very old school. It's a mindset where they don't like it. They're a bit nervous. The designer attends, oh my God, what are they going to do? Who do they think they are? Etc., etc. And sometimes the landscaper feels the opposite way. Oh my God, they think they're better than me. You know, so it's both sides. And I think this is the key thing. If you can set expectations on how you're going to be able to work together going forward, and exactly what that entails, you can communicate this to the team. As a landscaper, I'd communicate it to my landscaping team, and then they know what to expect. So there's no element of surprise. They're not surprised when the designer turns up. They're not surprised that he's there, because that's what I've already set that expectation, said he will be there on these days, probably more, to discuss X, Y, and Z. And it's also good, what I'm trying to forge at the moment in my team is a communication between the lead landscaper and the designer, because at the moment, any issues come to us, myself and Mike, to then go back to either one of those. Whereas if they can start working together more collaboratively and talking to each other and communicating, then it takes a lot of pressure off of myself and Mike, who are trying to run the business essentially, and shouldn't really have to be a go-between a designer and a landscaping team. So, you know, it's all about communication. And it's all about setting standards, setting expectations, and really discussing how you both would like to work together. It's also good to have that conversation, particularly if it's a new landscaper or designer you're working with. How do they normally work with other landscapers or other designers? How would they like the information presented to them? How would they like to work together on this particular project? What would work for both parties? And essentially coming to an agreement, communicating it to your landscaping build team, who are going to be on site. Like I say, it works with clients. It works when you're setting yourself up for success. You're telling them exactly what to expect. And they tend to then not be surprised about anything, because you've set the expectations. And it's no different when you're working with a designer or landscaper and you're on the other end, and you are looking to forge a new business relationship that could potentially be very profitable for both parties. So yeah, that was one of the 6 things that we discussed quite in detail, and lots of great discussion came out of it. If you did sign up for the talk on Facebook, you do get access to the replay. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. And if you do want the full lowdown on how we bridge the gap between design and build, then yeah, join as a member, because there'll be a full-on topic with templates of the introductory letter that we discussed on the talk. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I'd like to know your views on this. What's your experiences when it comes to working with, if you're a designer, a landscaper, and vice versa? It'd be great to hear from you. So do drop me an email, info@thelandscapercircle.co.uk, or follow us on Instagram, DM us, or just pick up the phone. It's been a crazy week. Like I said, I'm going to get back to being with my sick child, but onwards and upwards, guys. And yes, I will be sharing more on how we bridge the gap in my live on Friday over on Instagram. So if you want another of the elements that we discussed, then please do come see me on Instagram live on Friday at 12. So thanks for coming to this off the cuff episode. I will be back next week, same time, same place, Limitless Landscapers podcast. Thank you very much.